Imagine a world with no hunger, no cold, no predators, no disease that anyone could catch. A place where food appeared endlessly, water never ran dry, and the weather sat at a perfect, eternal spring. Nothing could hurt you. Nothing could threaten you. Every need you had was met before you even felt it. Now imagine that this perfect world killed everyone in it. Not with violence from the outside, not with some hidden flaw in the walls. It killed them slowly from the inside, in a way that nobody saw coming, least of all the scientist who built it. He set out to create heaven. What he got was something far stranger and far more disturbing than anyone expected. And the question it left behind is one we still don't really know how to answer. This is the story of Universe 25. And it might be the most unsettling experiment ever run on the question of what a good life actually is. First, let's meet the man who built paradise. His name was John B. Calhoun, an American ethologist. That's a scientist who studies animal behavior, working at the National Institute of Mental Health. By the late 1960s, Calhoun had spent decades obsessed with a single question: what happens to a population when you remove every limit on its growth? In the real world, animals are kept in check by starvation, by cold, by hunters, by sickness. Calhoun wanted to know what life would do if you took all of that away. So he decided to build a utopia, not for humans, for mice. In 1968, he constructed it, a metal enclosure about 9 feet square with walls too tall to climb. Inside, he engineered perfection. There were hundreds of nesting boxes, stacked in towers, accessible by little mesh tunnels. There was food, unlimited, always available. Water, always flowing. The temperature was held at a comfortable, constant warmth. There were no cats, no owls, no traps. Disease was controlled. The space could comfortably house thousands of mice. It was, by every measure a mouse could understand, paradise. Calhoun called it Universe 25 because it was his 25th attempt at building one of these worlds. Then he introduced 4 pairs of healthy mice, 8 animals, in a kingdom built for thousands, and he sat back to watch. At first, it went exactly as you'd expect. The mice explored, they claimed territory, they built nests, and then they did what animals in paradise do: they bred. For the first 100 or so days, there was a slow start, a settling in period the mice needed to organize their society. But once that society took hold, the population exploded. The number of mice doubled roughly every 55 days. From 8 to dozens to hundreds, they were thriving. The towers filled with nests. The world hummed with life. If you had looked in at day 300, you would have seen a success story, a booming, healthy, growing population in a land of endless plenty. But here's where it gets stranger. Around day 315, the growth began to slow, and it slowed long before the mice ran out of anything. There was still endless food, still endless water, still hundreds of empty nesting boxes, entire towers standing vacant. By every physical measure, the paradise was barely being used. It could have held far, far more mice than it ever contained. There was no shortage of a single resource. And yet the population stopped behaving like a population in paradise. Something invisible had reached its limit. And it wasn't the food or the water or the space. It was something inside the mice themselves. To understand what went wrong, you have to understand what paradise quietly took away. In a normal world, a mouse has jobs. There are roles to fill. A male defends territory. A young mouse has to fight, or flee, or find its place in the hierarchy. There is struggle, and struggle creates structure. It gives every animal a function, a position, a reason to be. But in Universe 25, there was nothing to struggle for. Territory was meaningless when food was infinite. There were no predators to escape, no scarcity to overcome, no challenges to meet. And as the population swelled, something cruel emerged from all that ease. There were simply too many mice for the number of meaningful roles available. An entire generation of young mice grew up with nowhere to go and nothing to become. And that generation broke. The older males who held the prime territories grew tired, and when they faltered, the younger males who should have replaced them couldn't. They had never learned how. They had grown up in a crush of bodies, unable to establish their own space, constantly rebuffed, so they withdrew. They gathered in the center of the enclosure in listless, passive clumps, and every so often erupted into sudden, pointless violence, attacking each other for no reason, then drifting back into apathy. They had lost the script for being a mouse. The females fared no better, and what happened to them is what truly doomed the world. In a healthy mouse society, the males protect the nests and the territory, which lets the mothers raise their young in peace. But the males had abdicated. So the mothers were left exposed, harassed, forced to defend their own nests, and they grew aggressive, then overwhelmed. They began to fail at mothering. They abandoned their young. They attacked them. They left pups to die or kicked them out of the nest far too early. Infant mortality in parts of the enclosure climbed above 90%. The mothers had stopped mothering, and in a world where mothers stop, there is no next generation. But the most haunting thing Calhoun observed wasn't the violence, it was the mice who opted out completely. As the society disintegrated, a new kind of mouse appeared. Calhoun called them the beautiful ones. These were animals, mostly young ones born into the chaos, who simply withdrew from all of it. They never fought. They never courted. They never tried to mate, never competed for territory, never engaged with another mouse in any meaningful way. Instead, they did three things. They ate, they slept, and they groomed themselves, obsessively, endlessly. Because they avoided all conflict, their fur was flawless. Sleek, unscarred, perfect. They looked, on the outside, like the healthiest mice in the world. Beautiful, pristine, untouched. But they were empty. They had no interest in living the way mice live. They were physically present and behaviorally absent, alive, but not really there. And as more and more of the young became beautiful ones, the population lost its capacity to renew itself. The mice were still being fed by paradise. They just stopped becoming anything. The population peaked around day 560 at roughly 200 mice. And then it began to fall, and it never stopped falling. Births dwindled toward nothing. The last conception happened, and after that, no more young were born at all. The beautiful ones groomed, the withdrawn males clumped in the center, the damaged mothers failed, and one by one, the old mice died, with no one to replace them. The world that could have held thousands emptied out quietly until the population reached zero. Universe 25, a paradise with endless food, perfect weather, and no enemies in the world, went extinct. Not from famine, not from plague, from something that has no obvious name. Now you have to be careful here, and Calhoun's critics are right to insist on it. Mice are not people. A metal enclosure is not a human city. Calhoun's own interpretations were sometimes dramatic, and later scientists have pointed out that the design itself may have trapped the mice in ways that don't map cleanly onto us. The social dysfunction may have been about the impossibility of leaving, not abundance itself. This was not a clean proof of anything about human destiny. It would be a mistake to walk away thinking it predicts our future. But it's also a mistake to look away from what it seemed to show, because the unsettling thing about Universe 25 isn't the population numbers. It's the suggestion, buried in the behavior of those mice, that a living thing might need more than its needs being met. That comfort, total and unlimited and unearned, might not be the destination we imagine it is. The mice didn't die because paradise failed them. They died because paradise succeeded, completely, perfectly. And in succeeding, it removed every challenge that gave their lives shape. With nothing left to overcome, they had nothing left to become. And that's the part that lingers, long after you remind yourself they were only mice. Because somewhere underneath the layers of who we are, we carry the same ancient machinery that built those creatures. The drive to strive, to struggle, to matter, to have a role that the world actually needs us to play. We spend our whole lives trying to engineer the friction out of existence. More comfort, more ease, more safety, every need met before we feel it. We are, slowly and deliberately, trying to build our own Universe 25. So the question Calhoun left behind isn't really about mice at all, it's about you. When the struggle is gone, when nothing is required of you, when every need is met and every challenge removed, what exactly is left to become? The beautiful ones never had to ask that question. They just groomed and slept and faded. You do have to ask it, and the answer is the one thing no paradise can ever hand you. Because the moment it does, it stops being the thing that made you.